The sixth and final Riven's Wishes quest has arrived. As with the previous Riven's Wishes quests, you complete the main objective, go to Mara, and you claim your reward. The rewards range from Last Wish raid weapons, exotic armor from the Lightfall Year, and some miscellaneous items. For this final challenge from Riven, we have to complete the Prophecy Dungeon. It stipulates that we have to complete each encounter, that being the Phalanx Echo encounter, the Hexahedron encounter, and the Kell Echo encounter. There aren't really any tricks to play with this quest, it is fairly straightforward. They have specified that you have to complete each encounter individually. I'm assuming so as you can't just join somebody at the very end of the dungeon and just have it auto-completed for you. Prophecy was the third dungeon added to Destiny 2 and it released just before Beyond Light in 2020, so it is quite old nowadays, and dungeons have got quite a bit harder since this one released. Therefore, it is quite doable solo. It's not too bad of a challenge if you're somewhat well versed in Destiny. If you're a bit newer, I would probably hit up Fireteam Finder and try to get a decent enough team put together, but I would say a random team of 3 Guardians could probably do it quite well. I'll go through the general structure of the dungeon. Whenever you start the dungeon, you'll be in Drifter's ship. You go through the launch thing into the hall and you will appear in the dungeon. You have to enter a tutorial area and pass 2 stages where you basically dunk light motes in a light pool, dark motes in a dark pool, and then you go to the first encounter. The general mechanic throughout the entire dungeon is that knights will drop some sort of mote, and it depends upon where you're standing as to what mote they'll drop. If you're standing in a light area, they will drop 3 light motes. If you stand in a shaded area, they will drop 3 dark motes. This is the concept used throughout the entire dungeon. For the Phalanx Echo encounter, there will be a large taken Phalanx boss always present within the boss arena, but it is immune. You have to dunk 2 sets of light motes and 2 sets of dark motes in order to remove the shield. This will enable the damage phase for the boss. You can do this in one damage phase using the Lament or something that has a good output of damage basically. I always use Lament because it heals you whilst you're doing damage. The shield can be a bit problematic and can get in the way, but you can fairly easily do one phase this boss. If you don't one phase the boss, it's a rinse and repeat situation. The shield will come back up. There'll be different pools to cleanse, and you just do the same thing with the light motes and the dark motes. My general technique with this encounter, which I got by solo flawlessing the dungeon, was by effectively being invisible at all times. So I used Void Hunter and just kept going invisible. That way I could control where I was standing in order to kill the knights and to get the right motes to drop, and I could go invisible to go bank the motes. If you're in a team, it's less important to go invisible, but if you're by yourself, it is very useful. If you're using a different class like Warlocks and Hunters, something that gives you restoration or keeps your health up is also quite good. Once you complete the first encounter, you'll be teleported to the Blight Zone, as I call it. This is an area where you can use your Sparrow and you Sparrow around to find these taken Blights. There'll be 3 sets of them, they spawn one after another, and there'll be a wee taken ball darting around in the area as well. So you defeat all combatants in the area, you go up to the ball, it teleports somewhere else, and you follow that around twice. If you clear all 3 zones, then you can go on to the second encounter, which is the Hexahedron. The Hexahedron encounter is quite straightforward. There will be some ads dotted around the place, some taken acolytes and the such, but the important thing is there are 2 taken hobgoblin snipers somewhere on the walls in the room. When you kill one of the hobgoblins, it will spawn a taken knight. You can then spawn motes. To know what motes you require, you can look at the wall and there's circles. You will see one of those taken balls again on the wall, which corresponds to then the pool that you need to cleanse. Once you cleanse the pool, you can go into the center of the room, you get lifted up towards the cube in the center, and then you get teleported. But really the room sort of rotates around you is the idea, and you'll be on a different side of the cube. You then have to repeat that process 6 times in total, so you have to do it 6 times in total, and then you'll get to the boss at the end. If the taken ball doesn't appear to be within the room, it'll probably be on the ceiling, and in that situation it's random what side you have to cleanse. I typically in this situation look at the cube in the center and go for sides which don't have symbols on them. That seems to work most of the time for me, but the good thing is if you mess up in one of the phases, you get sent back a phase and then you can just repeat it. The bosses are 2 taken Centurions. They don't have much health. If you use something like Lament or a good rocket launcher, you can get through them very quickly, and they really aren't a challenge at all, so don't worry. After the Hexahedron encounter, you go back into the Blight Zone, but you just have to follow the taken Kell through to the next massive cube. This will take you to what I have called Rainbow Road. This is an area that if you have a Sparrow, you follow the sort of path down, the ribbon looking thing down. There is a secret chest somewhere, but you can just sort of breeze through, get all the way to the end, and go up the funnel that takes you into the massive diamond looking shape. If you have a skimmer, you can do what we did and just completely bypass everything, get over to the quite close to the platform, and just drop and skip a massive portion of the dungeon. So yeah, have fun. This brings us to the final encounter, the Kell Echo. This incorporates themes from the first two encounters. You will be in a pyramid-shaped room, and there will be a duplicate of the boss in each corner, shielded and immune, but can still attack you. There will be 3 cleansing points, one in each corner in front of the boss. There will also be a few knights spawned around the room. So you have to kill the knights, get the corresponding motes to the pools you have to cleanse the pools, and whenever you cleanse a pool, the boss will disappear from that corner, but an ogre will appear. You do not have to kill the ogre, but it does increase your chances of surviving drastically if you do. But it just means that if you get the last pool cleanse, you can go straight to the center of the room and teleport to the damage area. In this damage area, you have to follow the boss down this massive corridor to the very end, and you have to stay quite close because otherwise you'll get a debuff which will kill you eventually. Every time the boss teleports, 2 hobgoblin snipers will appear, and you probably should kill them because they will kill you if you don't. You can damage the boss at any stage throughout this room, but he does have an attack which can teleport you back quite far, which will reduce your chances of surviving yet again. What I tend to do is damage the boss at the start and then practically ignore the boss for the rest of the area, other than the odd sort of auto rifle shot towards the general direction. And at the end of the room, I will dump all heavy ammo I have and super and everything at the boss. You get a solid half a minute, I'd say, at the very end to just dump everything into the boss. And if you do it like this, you should be able to get through the boss's health in about 3 or 4 goes. This is a rinse and repeat situation like the first encounter. If you don't one-phase the boss, which is very likely, you will get teleported back into the pyramid room, but it'll be a different side, similar to the Hexahedron encounter, and you'll have to cleanse the 3 corners again, be teleported, and then do it again. That's generally the entire dungeon explained. Some tips I have is that Lament is top tier for all encounters, but for the Kell Echo it can be a bit annoying because, again, there's a teleportation attack which will just teleport you back, and there's no way you can avoid it if you're up slashing the boss. Motes depend on where you're standing, not where the knight is standing, which I think is a common misconception. Ogres don't need to be defeated in the final encounter, but as I say, it does help, and Strand is great to counter being booped away off platforms, which is actually an issue in the first and potentially final encounter, so it does help a lot. Once you have completed all 3 encounters, you can go back to Mara, claim your 2 wish tokens this week, and then claim your prizes. I do not know what to use my tokens on, so if you have any ideas, please let me know, but it's probably going to be another Last Wish weapon. But we'll see. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the Riven's Wishes quests. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider leaving a like, maybe even subscribing, and I shall see you in the next one. Bye bye.